happening, fishing friends? Welcome to another episode. Fun video today because we're going to be looking at 5 different ways to rig up this Yum Sonar Minnow. Now, I'm also going to kind of do an unboxing quick and show you all the different colors this comes in and even a couple combos to fish on. So, enough yapping, let's take a closer look. So, officially the name of this is the Forward-Facing Sonar Minnow. The Yum worked with Jason Christie to create this. It was really designed to catch those fish on a forward-facing sonar. They also make a ball head for this, a larger ball head, so you can see this, when you're jigging this on, active target or whatever it is all the pros use to catch those fish that they can see. But you don't have to have all that fancy equipment to use this because it's a cool little bait. It's a solid shad-shaped body, so you can see there that long, skinny profile, which is easier to eat for fish. I think that is definitely enticing. It's got a blunt, kind of semi-rounded head, so your jig heads will fit up against it. I suppose you could even kind of cut this or taper it, but the ways I've rigged it, I don't see any need to do that. The body tapers down to a little forked tail, so similar to like what you'd see on a little fluke. Overall, the profile is good. It's also got, what do they call it? The Yum F2 sauce or something like that. Got a little bit of a stank to it. But the thing I really like about it is it's that finesse bait fish profile. I mean, when you see those little, I call them like those glass minnows, jumping around the top of the water, real small bait fish like this, you can see the bait itself is only about 3 inches long. It's nice and small, a good easy size meal. And the colors, I think Yum really did a good job on the colors of these. This one, they call Houdini shad. You can see it's got all the sparkle in there, but still with the dark back like the gizzard shad we have around here. There is the AU or IU, I still don't know how to say it, kind of that greenish with a little bit of pearl silver in it. Natural shad, which does look pretty shad-like, that blackish kind of blue top, pearl belly. Clear shad, which is cool. It's kind of that clear, pearly with that blue iridescent through it. It's pretty translucent color, very natural, good clear water color. There's the JC Natural, which I'm assuming is standing for Jason Christie. Kind of that bluish, greenish top with that blue iridescent going through it, pearl belly. There is Sight Minnow, which is your pearl and also with see-through with a bunch of that silver sparkle. Gizzard shad, so it's kind of got that dark, smoky top with gold, purple, black. Look at that. Look at all that. I love that one. Oh, and then kind of the pearly iridescent belly. We've got Goby, which is like a green pumpkin, purple flake, and again, it's got like that black flake and that blue iridescent, if you can see that shining in there. Again, a very neat color. I like that purple. I'm a fan of purple around here. There's 10 Killer Gold, which is green flake, kind of a goldish pearl belly. I thought it looked pretty similar to the AU, but when you get them side by side, you can see there is a difference. And look at that. Doesn't that look like a pile of minnows laying there? And last up, one of my all-time favorite bait fish colors, Tennessee shad. And this one's cool because it's a very natural, translucent, got kind of that gold, green top, and then this silvery white flake through it. I mean, it's just a very natural, you see that, shimmering through the water, very natural look. But let's get into my 5 finesse rigs and 5 different ways to kind of rig up and use this thing for fall, winter as we're going into now, small bait fish, or anytime you're really looking to get a finesse bite. Okay, so the first way is with a simple jig head. Now, one thing to keep in mind with this, like the sonar head, for fishing in front of a sonar, the head they have paired up with this is a larger ball head, so you can see it on the sonar, but it's got that 90-degree line tie. You see there how that line tie is straight up and down? So when you have your line tied to this and you're jigging it in front of the boat, your bait is sitting just like that, completely parallel, sitting straight across like that. As opposed to, some swim jigs, some jig heads, they might have an angled line tie. So there's a number of different ones out here. This is one of those Goby heads I was showing you all. I used this a while back. There's like the Okashira screw head. You can see how this one's angled just a little bit. So when you're bringing it through the water, this has, a little bit of a vibration right there. Kind of a spin-off of something else we'll look at. But really just a simple jig head. You can pop this on the bottom. You can kind of dart it through the water. You can swim it. A number of different things you can do on a simple jig head like this. Also, if you're fishing around docks, as a bank angler fishing around docks or deep drop-offs, you can kind of jig this back to you on the way, or if you've got some sort of fish finder in a kayak or something, a 90-degree line tie or head like this is perfect if you can actually see those fish, or if you're like right over a brush pile, you can take it right down. It's almost like ice fishing, right down to them and try to get those bites. So that's the first way, just on a swim bait head like this. You can dart it, as you're reeling it in, kind of popping it. Give that lure some action because remember, if you straight retrieve this, it's really not going to do much. So kind of give it a little light pops and such. Or there's different jig heads, like I said, with something like this that has a little bit of vibration or flash. And that kind of takes us into the second way to rig it. And that's with some sort of flashy bladed type jig head. Now I know the Okashira screw head kind of falls into this, but to me, that's just a really slight, you know, kind of front vibration to it. I'm thinking something like this, an underspin, or this happens to be one of the first gen lures. Top spin there, look at that. Something like this where you can just kind of straight retrieve it. You don't have to worry about, let's rig one up. Trying to do that on camera is a lot harder than it looks. But something like this where I can cast this out, I can retrieve it, I'm gonna have vibration, I'm gonna have flash, I'm gonna have movement here with the blade. This really isn't gonna do a whole lot unless I pop my line. Then it's gonna kind of give that, you know, jerky, you know, sort of kickback look to it. But you can see with very little movement here how much this little bait moves. And it really does have an awesome bait fish looking profile to it. Now, something like this with a head design like this, very small, very finessey. I'm thinking back to when Dad and I were throwing the big walking baits, something like this, a little, you know, shad, bait fish type mimicking deal. Perfect way to follow up on those bites that you're missing, or just throw something in there, a little finesse. If you've got guys throwing larger swim baits or, you know, bigger spinner baits or something, you can throw something real finesse like this and try to catch maybe some of those bites or get those fish that were a little bit too reluctant to hit some of those bigger baits. Or if you're a bank angler, you're around Coven, you're tired of getting hung up on stuff all the time, Owner makes these flashy swimmers in little tiny packages like this. So this is a 1/0 hook, 1/8 ounce. You just take this and screw it right into the nose of the bait. After that's flush, you just mark right on the bait where you want it to go. Make sure you're centered in the middle when you come up through the back of it as well. And again, you've got a super finesse bait fish looking technique. You're not going to get the paddle of the tail, but if those fish are kind of finicky, picky, you're trying to mimic those real small, you know, little bait fish, something like this is a great way to do that. You've got the flash, vibration, you've got movement, and you can always kind of yo-yo it. That's another thing, you know, people get so stuck on just casting and reeling stuff. You can let this die and kind of flutter. You know, you can pop it to get that tail to move back and forth. A number of different ways you can impart action on this bait to make it look like a bait fish. You didn't think we'd talk finesse without going over the Ned rig, did you? Well, a couple different ways to rig this up on a Ned rig. Now, of course, for bank anglers, I've talked about this so much. An EWG style Ned rig head like this, you can see it rides right along the back. It's right there, not an exposed hook. You can even skin hook this just a little bit. That way there's no hook exposed. You can pop that around, you know, brush if you're jigging around brush for crappie. Anything like this as a bank angler really helps where you don't have that exposed hook. Now, if you've got a decently solid bottom, and this is the goby color because gobies related to the bottom. If you're fishing for smallmouth in a stream, river, something like this, again, that's another one from first gen. I forget what they call this, but it's their Ned head. And when you pop this, it kind of walks back and forth on the bottom. So to almost mimic like a jerk bait slash bottom Ned rig action, awesome way to make and mimic some sort of bottom bouncing bait fish. Say that 3 times fast. And just show them something a little different that they don't see all the time. You know, so many are like worms or, you know, the TRD type stuff. But if they're really keyed in on bait fish, something like this bouncing around on the bottom, I can't help but think that's going to get smashed. Number 4 is something that I thought about when I first saw them. I thought, man, you know what? Those would be a cool little like small fluke type trailer. Maybe this sight color. And just like that, we're looking pretty bait fishy. Now, a straight tail trailer like this is awesome because it's not working against the chatterbait. I still love a paddle tail on a chatterbait, but I do have to say that you don't want to get one with too big of a tail, too much of a kick, because it can kind of work against the chatterbait. Something like a Little Reaction Innovation Skinny Dipper or Little Dipper is really what I use the most. Something like that has such a small kick to it, it's not enough to overpower this. So I think paddle tails still work, but that's something that's great with a straight tail trailer like this. It's just vibrating it, actually. If we take a pair of scissors and trim that up just like that, I mean, that looks tasty. That tail's going to be back there kicking, bouncing, moving with the bladed jig. So it wouldn't have to necessarily be this type of trailer if you had a, you know, a larger chatterbait, any type of fluke or trailer like this. But again, unlike the fluke, this doesn't have a cut belly channel. This is a solid plastic bait, so you can rig it right up in there. Should hold on quite well. And again, I've used straight tail trailers like this, like a fluke, on a ton of different baits. But the way this one fits on these little mini maxes looks absolutely killer. Like I said, I just cut maybe 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch off that skirt. I think that looks pretty tasty. Yes, I saved the best for last. The 5th and final way that I think you can have a lot of success rigging this is on a drop shot. Now listen, I am not the drop shot master out there. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. I know it catches fish, but as a bank angler, this can sometimes be an absolute pain to try to keep this out of stuff and not get snagged and then break off your leader and have to retie everything, and it gets to be crazy. But I did test this out the other day and it looks absolutely awesome in the water. Kind of a neutral buoyancy, bouncing around. You can see all the action that tail has. It's really got that slight kind of flick to it like a little bait fish has when they're going through. Even just, you know, slightly in the water, it's got that little bit of jiggle to it. So on a drop shot like this, I just rigged this one up real short so I could show you what it looks like in the tank. But looks great in the water, very natural. And not too long ago, a few weeks ago, I actually had a lot of success on a little small presentation like this, small little bait fish profile like this when you've got a really scummy bottom, because your weight's kind of dragging along in the scum. As you're dragging this along, this is staying up and out of that. So it's a good way to keep that bait off the bottom, gross, yucky stuff, but still have a good finesse profile that you can move real slow along. Now, as far as the setup goes for these, most of these I'm fishing real finesse type setups. So a little small light wire hook like this. I think this is a 1/16 ounce. You know, a little small 1/0 drop shot hook like this. Yes, they are absolutely crazy sharp, but they're a real light wire. So you shouldn't have too much power needed to actually get that hook to go through and penetrate the fish's mouth. But you don't want to bend it out. So you want to have a good soft rod to it, something to absorb some of that, so you're not just ripping this out and bending those little hooks. Now, in contrast, if you go up to something a little bit heavier like this on the little Chatterbait Mini Max, this has a pretty stout hook on it. I'm not saying this is the craziest heavy wire, but that's not something you're going to bend out very easy. So I think I just got the 1/4 ounce in all mine. So on a softer medium heavy or a medium power, something that you feel comfortable throwing something like this on, you can have a ton of success fishing this little tiny bait as a trailer and still have a decently heavy setup to it. So it doesn't mean, you get these, you have to throw a little tiny sissy stick because, oh, some guys just don't pick up a spinning rod. There are other ways to use this too if you're so inclined to only use a Baitcaster. But a number of different ways to rig this up. I can't really give you one exact because it really depends on how heavy or light of a hook you're going. Maybe we'll talk about that more in a future video. But I need you all to do me a favor and comment below. Let me know, what do you think of the Yum forward-facing sonar minnow? It's not just for guys that have the fancy electronics, the sonar stuff, and are actively looking at fish. A number of different ways you can rig this as a bank angler, as a crappie angler. I'm sure this would absolutely crush around brush piles. Against perch, pike. I mean, everything eats bait. I don't see how these can't get eaten in a number of different ways. So comment below and let me know what your favorite color was and how you would rig this. Now, of course, we can't forget our subscribe fishing friend today. That would be Mr. N. Stone. Thank you, sir, for watching and commenting, and everybody else who continues to watch, support my videos. I know they've been kind of few and far between lately. Work and family life has been crazy, but plan to have a few coming out here, some product reviews, some more kind of in-depth look at lures and such. If there's a specific type of video you want to see, comment below and let me know. But anyway, it's late, I need to edit. So thank you all for watching, and until next time.